wife, doing the roles of grandmother in some cases. All of these jobs being done and having full credit for these things. We don't have a concept, oh, well, somebody is just the housewife. No. Being the housewife is jihad fi sabilillah. For us, we just had the hadith last time. She's taking care of her house. That's considered jihad. Meaning if you somehow die doing that, Allah will forgive your sins. Meaning you did die doing the best and greatest of deeds. Not that, oh, if she actually went and did jihad, then she died doing the best of deeds. But if she died in the house, then it's okay. But, shame, but it's a person. No, it's a tragedy for the ummah if that happens. Now, this core job, which is a role that is a support role if you want to try to quantify it. Meaning one person is out in front and is being supported by another person in the rear. Whenever we do, if you get some people out in the jungle, it doesn't come to their mind that one job is more important than the other. They say you need to do both. One person, let's say if we're going to go and hunt, one person has to keep the camp and one person goes and catches the animal. We bring the animal back. This person who did the hunt is probably tired. Maybe he relaxes for a minute. And the other one cleans and scrapes and stuff like that. The animal cooks it. He maybe protects the camp while it's out. No one will be like, you know what? This is so important. This person is probably doing something bad. No, it's like we're trying to survive here. We don't have time to think about what is the women's role and how come we don't take them out. We're trying to survive here. So this happens by instinct. You get any person, and sometimes I used to watch these TV shows and they show this. These are some people in Africa or Asia or whatever, and they're living as human beings live. If you see, nobody has mental issues or anything. They don't have time. They're out doing what they're too busy surviving and taking care of themselves to go and sit there and be like, you know what? I wonder if my father 30 years ago did me injustice. I need therapy. No, you're busy. You're taking care of your children. You're taking care of your wife. You're taking care of this. You're taking care of your husband. And they're just living very close to their fitrat. And we exalt these roles. That for the next generation to take place, these roles have to be there. If you try to destroy them, then it all falls apart. They say, no. Only the male roles are important. So only a woman who does a stereotypical male role, we'll put it in air quotes, because who said it's a male role? But if they do the stereotypical male role, then this is very exalted and this is very good. So if they join the army or the police or they become a businesswoman or they do all of these type of things, then yes, this counts. If they take care of their family, their original role, everybody can do that. No, everybody can't do that. This is what makes them, like in some way, how Allah gives fathers to one and He gives some sort of fatherland superiority to the other. The one that's their natural superiority, He said, no, that's not important. So their natural ability to have children, to take care of those children, to see what they're doing, to take care of their elders, to support their husband or their brother or their father when he's doing something, and you keep the house and you have it ready for him, and so he doesn't have to work 2 times, and so his life becomes better. They say, no, that's not important. No, if you do his job, then that's important. That's good. Now you are reached the exalted goal. No, the exalted goal is that one. If I'm doing my duty, then that's what my duty is, not something else. Like we had let's say that we had in the Battle of Uhud, right? The Prophet gave the order for some people to stay in the back and to guard this area, and the other ones to go and fight. If the ones who He told to stay in the back went and fought, then did they get more glory? No, your duty was to do what He told you to do, which is stay in the back and prevent the collapse of the troops. When they went up to the front and fought, the whole thing came down. The same thing we say. If you send the people whose duty is to do this out to do that, then the whole thing will fall down. So if Allah is saying that the jihad for the man is to go and take care of his family and to make sure he earns so that to the best of his ability, maybe he doesn't earn, but he tries, and he does juhd, and he does effort in that area. That's his jihad, that's his taklif. And her taklif is to take care of the family. That's the original goal. Sometimes it might happen that it happens all the time. Sometimes you have a guy, he's trying to work, this, that, and the other. The tree falls on his leg, it breaks his leg. He doesn't have any money, and his wife has to do some sort of work. Okay, alhamdulillah, she did extra. But it's not that her original duty is gone. And we appreciate that. That having that role keeps the value of the people. You don't have these people getting lost. They say, well, what is my role? I can't do that. These suffering burnout. Why? Because they're doing something unnatural, and they're saying this is the norm. This is the standard, to do something which is unnatural for you. So we say no. Each person is exalted in the position that Allah gave them. Doing your duty is exalted. But you don't do, whenever we do mustahabat, right? First you do the wajib. I don't come over and it's time for Salatul Maghrib, and I decide, you know what, the time is about to finish, let me go over, or Asr or something. Let's say it's about to finish. Can I do now the Nawafil or something? No, it's wajib now. You have to pray it now. First you do your wajib, then you do the extra. Can I go over, I only have $1 to spend, and I can either spend it on my kids or I can spend it on the homeless person. They say, oh no, mashallah, look at that guy, he gave a homeless person $1. His kids are starving. No, first you give to your children. First you give to your children. First you take yourself, your wife, your children, your cousins, your father and mother. You work your way out. Then, okay, alhamdulillah, we took care of all of them. Okay, do we have some Shia in the neighborhood? Okay, we took care of all of them. Do we have some other Muslim in the neighborhood? We took care of all of them. Do we have some other people around us? We took care of all. Okay, now I can find some homeless person 1,000 miles away in Africa and be like, mashallah, here's $1. But did you take care of all the people first? You have to take care of your neighbors. This is one of the important lessons that we have to have in Islam, and we need to make sure that we are teaching ourselves and our wives and our children this important lesson. When we look at this example of Fatima, we look at the example of her marriage with Ali, Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Please give a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And we have the idea that the marriage completes half of the faith. It's an important, it can become wajib, but sometimes it can be mustahab. But if it becomes wajib in some circumstances, at some point in time, usually most people have to get married. It's a huge barakat. She did it for a very low mahar. A lot of times people, they go over and they use their mahar to go over and cause jealousy between the people. They say one of the signs that this is a good marriage, one of its good omens, is that the mahar is not high. They had some communities, some of the Muslim communities, they would keep setting the mahar higher and higher and higher until after a while nobody was able to get married. Fitna and things like that breaking out of the community. Why? Because they raised this mahar so much. Oh, well, his daughter got 50,000, so my daughter gets 60,000. His daughter got 60,000, my daughter gets 70,000. Until finally nobody can get married. Destroying themselves with their own hands instead of following the sunnah of the Rasulullah. We want to look at this story of the mahar. That first, some of the other companions came and they realized that Fatima is old enough to get married, and they wanted to establish themselves in the community and get a good tie with the Prophet. And they came and they started offering all kind of things. Huge mahars. Some of them were businessmen. Amir al-Mu'mineen at the time was regular person. Not of course with Allah, but to the people, to the eyes of the people, he's a young man. They had money, they had camels, they had this, they had that, and they began offering these things to Rasulullah. They said that one of them came, we're going to give you this much money and this, that, and the other for the hand of your daughter? They said the Prophet picked up a handful of sand, and then in his hand it turned into gold. You're trying to tempt the Prophet of Allah with wealth? This is one of these things. It's a little off topic, but we'll go into it a little bit. Is when they talk about this wilaya takwini, which is that do the prophets and the imams do tasarruf in the khalq? Can they do that? Can the prophet and the imam do what he wants with the creation? And sometimes they say Shias believe in this and that this makes them kafir and mushrik and blah blah blah. No. First of all, we have to understand the position of the imam, the position of the prophet, and the position of mankind as a whole. Mankind as a whole is representing Allah, and then the prophets and imams are over the rest of mankind. And mankind is over the rest of the qawm. I mean, the prophets and the imams are over not just the creatures, because even the creatures are higher than the dirt and the rocks. They're over all of it. Right? If Allah says, what's the meaning of Khalifa? This is like representative. Meaning you do what the boss says. Right? So let's say if I'm the vice president of Trump, right? And Trump leaves, he's sick for a few days, I get all of his rights. I can do this, I can appoint judges, whatever, right? Inshallah, I'm not his representative. But we had a mu'min in the office, and inshallah I will be, right? Now, you have all of the rights. That's the meaning of the word. But also, you would not disobey whatever the true authority is. Meaning they can do what they want, but it's always in accordance with what Allah wants. This is what we say, that they say that, they do anything with the will of Allah. Of course, because they don't have independent mustaqil power. None of us do. Even they say, can I pick up this water? Yes, with the power that Allah gave me and the rights that Allah gave me. Allah said that you have this much authority in this world. But can I pick up something that weighs 1,000 tons? No, I don't have authority to do that. Allah didn't give it to me. They have authority over everything, even down to the zarat. So, yes, if there's some benefit to the message, to the creation, then they can do tasarruf in the khalq. If there's no benefit or it would actually be harmful, then they're not going to do. Because Allah isn't willing for them to do. That's why sometimes they say, well, you guys say that the Imam can do this, that, and the other, then why didn't Imam Hussein go over and, do a miracle and wipe out the army of Yazid? And we see sometimes Allah wants the Imam or the Prophet to do that and he does it, and then another time he doesn't want it and he doesn't do it. Because it's with the will of Allah. So sometimes Musa, alayhi salam, he opened the sea and drowned the army of Fir'aun. And then the other time, it's interesting, Harun didn't fight the Bani Israel when they were doing their zone to him and worshipping the cow. Why? Because he had the freedom to do it then. How come he didn't do a miracle right then and there? I mean, it's according to the Yahud, that the miracles that when Musa used to ask for a miracle, Harun used to do it. He would tell Harun, do X, Y, and Z, and then he would do that at the orders of Musa. Many times the Prophet's miracles would be done at the hands of Imam Ali, that he would do the miracle for the Prophet. He's just working together. I used another example. My teacher actually used the example. If you say that, because the Prophet is the Abdullah, he's the servant of Allah. Now, if I say that I opened the door, okay, I opened the door. If I say I opened the door with my hand, it's also true. If I say I opened the door with the key, it's also true. Meaning, if Allah did so, and we see that Allah sometimes takes credit directly, like it was not you who threw when you threw, it was Allah who threw. Meaning, Allah is taking credit for the actions that He did, that His servants did at His request. So this is when the Prophet wanted to show these people this important lesson. They come and start offering this and that and the other, and he needs to show them this important lesson. There is some benefit in showing them that this is, you're offering me this, that, and the other. Because even you have the story of Salman al-Farsi, right? When he wanted to get free, the Jewish person who owned him didn't want to free him. So sometimes you don't want to free somebody. They say, how much is it to buy this person? He didn't want to do it because he knew it would benefit the Muslims. He made a very high price. It's like 1,000 date trees or 100 date trees, something like that, which each one is expensive, and XYZ amount of gold. So he was like, they're never going to get this person because maybe he's worth only 10, and I made him pay 100 or 1,000. I don't remember the story, right? And the Prophet said, okay, fine, I'll pay the price. He said, each one of my Sahaba, each one of them get one date palm, and they each came with the small, what do they call it, the shoot or whatever, and each one brought the little thing until he had 1,000. He's like, here's your 1,000 date trees, or 100 or whatever it was. And he said, how much gold was it? He said, this amount. They said the Prophet took a piece of gold and then put it in his mouth, and then it weighed the amount that he had said. He had said some high amount. But why didn't the Prophet just do that from the beginning? Like, why wait till after the people did the thing? He didn't come with 50 brothers and sons and an army and this and that and the other that nobody could even think about looking in his general direction. When Abu Jahl and them start giving him a hard time, he just cuts his head off with a sword. And the Bani Hashim just go berserk on the rest of the Quraysh. No, because then there's no lesson in it. Then you're not believing. You're just accepting. You're not there's no lesson in it. So it's very important that that's why the Imams, they always guiding, they're accepting oppression, they're doing this, that, and the other, because their job is to guide. The miracle is seeing their sabr. Please give us salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So it's also important, so Fatima didn't take the high mahar. She also said another sunnat, that marrying a mu'min for his faith rather than money and position and maqam. There's a sunnah. Not that, first I wait and see this, that, and the other, and look at all the dunyawi stuff, and then I go over and say yes or no. So that's a second sunnah. So what a blessing that she's giving to the men, that she's saying that the sunnah is that the mahar is low so that we're able to get married. And then also that I'm looking at their character first. So it's a lesson for the women that when you're wanting to get married, look at the character first. Again, it's a good lesson because the character is the thing that sticks. With the taunts that the people make, because sometimes the people they used to be jealous of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. Or sometimes they would be jealous of the affection that was shown towards Fatima, but they couldn't attack her directly because the Prophet had warned them about that. So what they used to do was they would direct their taunts towards her husband. And if a person is of low character, sometimes I've seen even the person, they turn against their husband. Not because he did anything wrong, because her friends kept taunting and taunting and taunting and taunting and taunting. And so she gets to dislike him as well. She would go to the Prophet with that, and this is that other thing of this backbiting and stirring up fitna that you can do. So she would have to defend Amir al-Mu'mineen from these type of taunts. She would have to defend the Prophet from these type of taunts. She was also very known for being praying and fasting. This is something that it used to happen, that I would be asked sometimes to do, there's some sort of couple they're fighting for one reason or the other. Sometimes the man, he's having some sort of problem with his wife, or the wife is having a problem with the husband. Most of the times it was the other way around. The wife was having the problem with the husband, because the men, not that they never had problem, but they wouldn't admit to it. They would try to solve everything themselves, usually until it got out of hand. But so I would give them the advice. I would say, before we start the advice, you need to do building your character, sajadiyah and stuff like that. Read those du'as together. Build that character. Why does this bring you closer together? I'm doing it for me and Allah. I'm building my relationship with me and Allah, and she's building my relationship with her and Allah, right? But what happens? We're getting closer together because we're going the same way. If we try to get closer together for ourselves, her interests are different than my interest, because she wants this, that, and the other as a woman, and I want this, that, and the other as a man, and it's not going to be the same thing. But if we're both trying to get close to Allah, then it overlaps, because I'm trying to be a good to her out of my fear of Allah. She's trying to be good to me out of her fear of Allah, not because I want him to do. It's because the other way is actually manipulation. We act like it's good character, but it really is manipulation. I'll pretend to be good and give him what he wants so that he'll do what I want. I'm not doing these righteous actions for the sake of Allah. I'm doing these righteous actions for the sake of, it's kind of shirk in a way. Meaning I'm making salat so that he will see me making salat. So he will stop doing his bad deeds, because that bad deed was offending me. One of the things sometimes we see is that the person is not getting, like their husband or their wife is committing some sort of a sin. They're not upset about the sin because it's hurting their relationship with Allah. They're upset about the sin because it offends them. If their wife or their husband is doing sins that don't hurt them, they don't care. So like you'll see sometimes the husband is very upset because his wife is not wearing proper hijab, but he doesn't care if she doesn't pray or not, because that one doesn't hurt him. He needed to say something when he wasn't praying. He needed to say something when he was, sometimes even you have these people who have no character. They'll push their wife or their husband to do haram for their sake. A common one, which I'll read the ayah and this, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu inna fi azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum fahdaru. That, O you who believe, from your wives and your children is an enemy, so take precaution. And I'll read the counter and then we'll go through it. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. That, our Lord, give us from our wives and our children coolness of the eye, and make us for the believers imams. Now, sometimes people read it on the superficial level, because it sounds like it's going from the male to the female. So the man has all the responsibility, the woman is just there chilling, and inshallah she's mu'mina, and inshallah she's not causing you trouble. Rather than reading it as the family, the male and the female, need to be paying attention to this. Sometimes they have one which people get confused, which this says that money and children are fitna, but somehow they confuse this ayah, which it says from your, meaning because you have a natural responsibility to take care of your wife. They start taking care of her in the disobedience of Allah. She asks for this, I need to have new jewelry, or they just want to show off, or whatever the emotion is, just want to make her happy, want her to stop complaining, right? And so they go over and they open up a business which has fiha kalam, some sort of doubtful thing. Why? Because he needed more money. Let her do something that's dangerous, her children, something like this. I've seen the other way. Sometimes the wife themselves, this is a common one, they're so protective of their children, they'll destroy the wilayat of the family, and then the whole family will either collapse or just there's no order in the home. Why? This is why it's enemy. Because you have a strong instinct, like the man has a strong instinct to do for his wife. The woman has a strong instinct to make sure her children are okay. But Islam didn't say that first you make sure your children are okay, then you make sure your husband is okay. That's your instincts say that. Islam is make sure your husband is okay, and then make sure your children are okay. And he has more right in that lineage. Like they had one time they did a study, they said that they're talking about Americans, just showing how they're somewhat gumrah. They said that they asked women, if you come home and you see the husband is yelling, the dog is howling, and the children are crying, they say, who do you take care of first? They say, well, first I'm going to go and make sure that the children are all right. They were doing something they're not supposed to do. Okay, well, don't worry, Mr. Jones, I got this. I'm going to go tell them what your orders are. I'm going to go tell them what your orders are. Okay, kids, don't make Mr. Jones angry. I need this job. Dog, take the dog outside. They get the order right, so they understand it on that level. But what's happening is, just like what we do, that basking and not appreciating this mercy that the other one is showing. They know that the boss doesn't have mercy and love for them, so they feel like they can't make a risk there. The husband has mercy and love for them, and then you run it over. Right? Common mistake. Not that men don't mistake. Men have their own versions of doing the same thing. But this is what we'll do to create, and then it creates, done enough over time, you kept making, because the dog and the kids see that. They're like, okay, well, I'm more important. Right? Then the kid's 20 years old. He's getting out of control. And now I want to drag the husband and be like, yes, tell this kid to not do that. Well, I've been disrespecting him for 20 years. How's he going to instruct the kid? I've made the kids see that he's second or third behind the dog. Snoopy is more important. Throw themselves, this is the enemy. You threw themselves into the fire with their own hand. By disobeying what? The order that Allah had made. The men, they do the same thing. They put their wife and their children ahead of Allah. Allah said, do it this way. No, wait. You have getting together, they're reading Quran, this, that, and the other, and neglect. You're getting together, they're reading Quran, this, that, and the other, and neglect his wife and his kids. He could sit down a little bit. Maybe she even sometimes ask him, can we read Quran together? He's like, no, I'm busy, I'm sleepy, I'm tired, I'm this, that, and the other. Then later on, he's all shocked when she's not involved in the deen, and she doesn't care about the movement, and she doesn't care about it. But who did that? You did that. You just came, you wanted your food, you didn't get it, eat, go to sleep. You didn't spend any time building up that. This thing that we're talking about, oh Allah, give me wives and children who are, or husbands who are coolness to the eye. For some reason, we never think, why don't I be a coolness to the eye of the other one? We never think, why don't I try to help the other person get there? One way is, the best way is by example. The best way is by doing, religious activities and things like that together. Why? Because now we're moving together as one towards this goal, and we're getting closer together, we're getting closer to Allah. One of the main example, from this whole story of Ibrahim is what? When you have the Ibrahim working by himself, working in his young, he goes over and he's willing to throw himself into the fire. Then what does he do? What does Allah ask him to do? Get your wife involved. Get your children involved. It's not enough that you just go over. He's not imam then. When he goes, they throw him he goes and breaks the idols, and they throw him into the fire. Because this is one of the things that they try to attack the Shias on. They say, how can you say that this happened when we know that Amir al-Mu'mineen was very brave? And a brave person would protect their family. So how can you accept this story? That people attacked the house and he didn't come out and kill all of them. And we see that he would go in battles and fight by himself against 100 people. So he had no problem in the bravery. So then therefore, X, Y, Z. We have two. We have actually more than two. One of them is, we have the story of, which I mentioned, which was Hazrat Harun. Which one is more serious? That these people are leaving the deen and worshipping a cow, or that your wife got hit? Which one is more important? Somebody hit my wife? Okay, that's a personal insult. She was harmed. One mu'mina was harmed. We can't let this go on because maybe the person after he hits my wife, he starts doing other people. And I was personally injured because this is my wife and it's my duty to protect her. Okay, bad. But the person didn't try to do shirk. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They didn't do the other. One is he has a giant cow. He stuck it in the masjid. Which one's more important? Obviously, getting a cow, not even like he has some idea which is kind of hulati and he's teaching it from the mimbar. No, he has a cow. And the Prophet, to keep the unity until the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Which one's more important? Maybe to me personally, if somebody hits my wife, it's more important. But is murdering a mu'min more important or the injury to my wife? Murder. Between murder and a personal injury, murder is more. When Bilal Habashi and Ammar bin Yasir and Sumayya and all of these people were getting killed literally, Rasulullah didn't start fighting them because the mission is more important. Right now, people don't have the awareness. Right now, the Islam hasn't been proven. If I go on a solo jihad because one person got hurt, then there's going to be a problem. We had the example of Hazrat Musa. He did that. Some mu'mineen was fighting. He sees that he's getting injured and he jumps the gun. Maybe he wasn't trying to hurt the person, but he's trying to defend the person. We're on our bab of our discussion of Tarka Aula, that he hit somebody and killed them. Meaning that he did jihad when it was not the time for jihad. It was this was like something he had to repent for and made a mistake and it made his job harder and this, that, and the other. So we have all these examples. Imam Ali following the examples of all of these prophets. It was better, and also the mukhalifin, if they had started a bloodbath it was better, and also the mukhalifin, if they had started a bloodbath in the Prophet's masjid. These same tribes, these same wild Bedouin tribes that were like hard on kufr, that only accepted because of force. At the drop of a hat, they switched. So really, a bloodbath in the masjid was really the best option. Every person would say no. And they say, well, he was actually, when he used to come to the masjid, he was somewhat friendly and this, that, and the other. When you're a political leader, you sometimes have to be. Sometimes you have to be. The person comes, you have to be somewhat cordial. You can't say everything you want. You have to be cordial. This is the country. This is another one. The defense, sometimes your position handcuffs you. Why? Because your job is to defend the position, not yourself. Amir al-Mu'mineen's job at that time was defending the position of Imamat, not himself as Ali ibn Abi Talib and his wife as his wife. He was defending the maqam of Imamat. If he goes and the Imam throws his life away, the whole thing gets lost. The people become unraveled. Then they go and the whole deen gets thrown in the... So yeah, he had to be patient. He had to bear with it. He had to keep his mouth closed. This was a huge struggle for the Imam. This is the sabr. He had just lost his best friend, Rasulullah. He lost his position. He lost everything that he worked for. And then also, he lost his wife. They say that when Amir al-Mu'mineen, remember they would say she would be crying and crying and crying. And imagine Amir al-Mu'mineen has to sit and bear that while his wife is sobbing. while his wife is heartbroken. When he came to Hazrat Zahra after he realized that she was going to die, she had already lost the child, she was already injured, and she used to hide the injuries from him. He said, I'm about to die. I'm going to go back to my father. I want to ask you to carry out my wasiyah. First he said things she asked, and she always they said that she would always pray for everybody and ask for everybody, but never ask for anything for herself. And she said, have I ever asked you for anything? He was like, no, you've never asked me for anything. She said, I want to ask you for two things right now. First of all, marry this woman because Imam Hussein loves her very much. She's asking for other people besides herself even then. And she's Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, hey, Ya Hussein.
أيها الفاطمي الحزين، هل مصاب البتول يهون؟ لا وربي فقل كيف ننسى ما جرى إذ رقتها المنون. أيها الفاطمي الحزين، المصاب البتول يهون. لا وربي فقل كيف ننسى ما جرى إذ رقتها المنون. هاجموها وبيت علي كعبة الله عنه تصور. فزهت راسيها زينب تحاجيها، وين محسن يناديها، وين محسن يناديها. فزهت راسيها زينب تهاجيها. قومي يا أم حسينة، قومي يا أم حسينة، قومي يا أم حسينة، قومي يا أم الحسين. يا فاطمة يا زهرة، يا يا فاطمة يا زهرة. everyone يا هیزم آورد دشمن خدایا، شعله زد آتش از در به خانه. ناله ای کودکانه بلند است، مادرم را مزن تازیانه. کوه صبر از مصیبت شکسته، فاطمه پشت در ناله می. وای منو، وای منو، وای منو، وای من. My eyes are filled with blood, Ya Fatimah. My heart is filled with rage, Ya Fatimah. And the book of the pains of Murtaza, this is the hardest page, Ya Fatimah. My eyes are filled with blood, Ya Fatimah. My heart is filled with rage, Ya Fatimah. And the book of the pains of Murtaza, this is the hardest page, Ya Fatimah. The thorn in my eye, knowing that you will die. The thorn in my eye is when I see you cry. The thorn in my eye, knowing that you will die. The thorn in my eye is when I see you cry. The thorn in my eye, hearing your painful sigh. How can I ignore the blood stained on the door? How can I ignore when you fell on the floor? How can I ignore the blood stain on the door? How can I ignore Ya Fatimah Zahra, Ya Fatimah Zahra, Ya Fatimah Zahra, Ya Fatimah Zahra, Ya Fatimah. ويله ماتت فاطمة، 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 ويله ماتت فاطمة. حان توقيت الدمع والفاجعة من أرض حتى السماء السابعة، يوم ماتت رحمة الله الواسعة، قتلت الزهرة الأيادي المجرمة، قتلت الزهرة الأيادي المجرمة. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة. بليل شيح الزكية الطاهرة، وين يدفنها بدمعته حيدرة. الزهرة أكبر والله من المقبرة، بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السماء، بس قلب حيدر ترى بقد السماء. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة. صح دفنها بس عجيبة بيا صبور، شلون ظل عايش علي يم القبور. صح دفنها بس عجيبة بيا صبور، شلون عايش ظل علي يم القبور. ما تظن من قالوا الخد من سطور، ما تظن من قالوا الخد من سطور. شاف كسر الضلع يتنازف دمه، وشاف كسر الضلع يتنازف دمه. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة. شلون لو شايف حسين على الثرى، والشمر متربع يحز منحره. بالحوافر كل الضوع مطشره، بالحوافر كل الضوع مطشره. شي يصير بحالته حامل حمى. ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة، ويله ماتت فاطمة.
فاطمة الزهراء، فاطمة الزهراء، فاطمة الزهراء. اسمت میبارد از نفس باران، اسم تو میبارد از نفس باران، نور رخت دارد جلوه بی پایان. الله علیک یا الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا، صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا. جواب یه بار دیگه، یا فاطمة مهر تو در دلهای توحید است، مهر تو در دلهای توحید است. جلوه از نورت صورت خورشید است، جلوه از نورت صورت خورشید است. آیه به آیه از دل قرآن داده خدا این پیام، بر روح بلندت سلام. آیه به آیه از دل قرآن داده خدا این پیام، بر روح بلندت سلام. سلام ای کوثر و توحید و هم، ای وصف تو یاسین و قدر، ای روح تو شمس الضحی. سلام ای معنی الکتاب، ای مدح تو با جبرئیل، ای مادر ارباب ما. روی لبم اتینا سیدتی لبیک یا فاطمة الزهرا، صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا، صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا، صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا. نام تو تنها بر زخم دلم مرهم، نام تو تنها بر زخم دلم مرهم. بودا صلی الله علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا، صلی الله علیک. زيارة. صلى الله عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا خير خلق الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى اللقيلة زينب وعلى أبا الفضل العباس. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام عليك